Is NHL Sense Arena worth the cost? You know what? Let's talk about that. Let's be honest, hockey is not cheap. An extra ice time can cost over $150 an hour, and hockey camps cost hundreds. With NHL Sense Arena, you're getting access to hundreds of drills and training plans starting at $33 a month, where you can practice on a schedule that works for you. And new content is constantly added to the game. From new arenas to practice in, weekly challenges with their season mode, and new drills like the recently released USA Hockey training plans. This is such a great training tool for any hockey player or goalie. While hockey is definitely expensive, this is just over $1 a day. So, what are you waiting for? Level up your off-ice hockey training with NHL Sense Arena.
And remember, gang, for listeners of Our Kids Play Hockey programming, we're offering $50 off an annual plan. Just head over to hockey.sensearena.com and use the code HockeyNeverStops at checkout. Again, that's hockey.sensearena.com. Use our code HockeyNeverStops at checkout and take your child's off-ice training to a new reality with NHL Sense Arena 25. Now, let's get you into this episode on the Our Kids Play Hockey Network. Hello, hockey friends and families around the world, and welcome back to another episode of Our Kids Play Hockey. This is going to be part 2 with Brianna Decker. If you haven't heard part 1, go back to the last episode of Our Girls Play Hockey. We're going to dive into her life now as an Olympian, as someone who has played at the highest levels of hockey. She is a gold medalist. She is a wonderful person, and she's joining us now on this part 2 edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. The work begins sometimes when you reach the goal. And I think people forget that. Sometimes I advise parents that, well, I want to play tier 1 or I want to do this thing. And I always say, just remember, it's a great goal. But when you get there, the work actually starts, right? Getting there is just the beginning, to your point. Brianna, I want to segue that into something else here. I appreciate how humble you are. I really do. But the truth is this, at least from where I'm sitting and from the other hosts here, you're one of the greatest hockey players on the planet. And you have played amongst the most elite groups of hockey players that have played. So I have to ask you some questions about that level and where you've been. We talked about separators at the prep school level as being razor sharp. At the Olympic level, at the world level, I can't imagine how thin the line is between making that team. And then again, we talked about making it and the work beginning. The Rents do every day at the national program. Doesn't matter who you are. What are the separators that you have seen amongst the players that you've played with that have made that team? And not just in hockey, but as people as well.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is like the mental side. And like that might sound cliche, but like again, like you just said, the line is so fine once you get up to that level of play. Everyone's skilled, everyone's fast, everyone can shoot the puck. I think for me, it's like the mental side of the game. And I've seen so many players not make our Olympic team simply based on their confidence in their mental side. The one thing, like for me, and this is going to sound, I don't know. I mean, it sounds rude in some ways, but I just never gave an F what people thought. Like I just went out, I played, I had fun. When I practiced against my teammates like they were the opponent, and like I didn't care about hurting feelings. And when I was on the ice, obviously off the ice, I'm a totally different person, but that was like how I was. And I had some teammates like that on the national team too, that like, you're going to go put someone through the wall at practice. Well, it's like, I got to practice that way to be able to play that way on a Friday night against Team Canada. And so that's kind of, I felt I separated myself because I left emotion out of it from an on-ice standpoint, and then off the ice just tried to be, I goofed around and had fun. But the difference, I think, and sometimes like, you have like the Poulin versus, other players on Team Canada. It's like the difference I can tell you is probably how she prepares, and she probably prepares like a professional athlete should. And you have to, it's like, that's how I was. And it was time to dial it in, I heard this podcast once from LeBron James, and he, people can say whatever they want about him, but he prepares from a 24-hour standpoint. So when he plays at 7:00 on a Friday night, 7:00 on a Thursday night is when he starts his preparation. And it's like, it's so true. And the more you prepare, the more confidence you're going to have because you did everything you could to be ready for that moment. And so, preparation and mental side are the biggest separators, I think, once you get into that elite pool when there's not much you can count on. So
It's also very easy to have an opinion when you're sitting on your couch watching the game about what athletes should be
right.
doing. We talk about that a lot, but I love the answer first off. So thank you for that. You had started saying this might sound rude, and it's not rude. Iron sharpens iron. And I think that we actually need to normalize that approach, not just in hockey, right? We're not just talking about going on the boards and putting someone through the boards. We're talking about at jobs, at school. You want to surround yourself with the people that are going to push you to be the absolute best you can be. And I agree with you about emotion. I always say this, Brianna, that it's important to have feelings. It's nothing wrong with having feelings, but you have to control them so that they don't control you.
Yeah.
And again, to the parents listening, this is something you got to work on with your kids from a young age. So again, 8 to 18, whether they're having an outburst or not, you should say that to them. You have to get these emotions under control. It's not just for hockey. I can't come back to that enough. You can't do that in a workplace. You can't go in a workplace and just have your emotions take over. You're gonna get fired. All right.
Yeah.
So I love that answer. And it's funny across the board. We do a lot of interviews with and thankfully and very, very with a lot of gratitude, a lot of Olympians, a lot of professional athletes. And you hear this across the board. We push each other harder than anyone else can. The greatest opponent is my teammate, right?
Yeah.
That is a humongous separator amongst the world class and maybe just elite class, right? And these skill sets, Brian, I'm going to throw this back to you. It didn't start when you made the Olympic team. It wasn't like, oh, okay, I'm on Team USA. I've got to work hard now. It started when, right? Probably at a young age.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, super young age. And I remember we had a camp for USA Hockey tryout camp, and I was at this point I was more of a leader on in the program, so I was a little older. Not at my oldest stage, but I was I think it was probably right before 2018 Olympics. But we had a tryout camp, and I'm in the locker room, and I'm like, "Hey guys, our job tonight is to make it miserable for the other girls that we're playing against." And I even said, I was like, I want to make every kid on that every player on the other team look crappy tonight. I said shitty instead, but I was like, I want to make them look crappy tonight. And someone was like, well, Dex, that's kind of rude. And I'm like, if you don't have that mentality, then good luck making the team. It's like, I had that mentality, but that was what I thought about in order to go out there and not care that they have a US jersey on because it's camp, but just think about it as that's the opponent. That's who I'm supposed to beat tonight. And so
isn't that a sign of respect? Again, I think sorry to cut you off. We jumble this kind of in our heads, right? The ultimate respect you can give someone is giving them everything you have.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not disrespectful if you're going out there and giving everything you have. Right. Again, this is some of the social things I'm trying to just twist a little bit. And again, I apologize for stopping in mid sentence there. It's just to me, I want that. I want that respect that you're going to give me everything you got.
Yeah. Our the guy I coached with here, Gordy Stafford, he coached me here at Shattuck, and now we coach together. And he says it every year. Competition is the most sincere form of friendship. So when someone is seriously playing hard against you, it's because they love you and they want you to get better and they want to get better. And
right.
So you just gotta, he for sure said that to our group when we were here, but I was a, high school student, not probably listening like I should have. So yeah.
No, it's a great answer. And I really appreciate you diving into this. And another question, and this is one of those ones you don't have to answer if you don't want to. Luckily for us, we've got to see a lot of your success over the years at every level that you played. But successes don't come without failures, right? I'm wondering if you would touch into any challenging times in your career that have sharpened the iron that you have become to help you become a better athlete.
Yeah, I think there's individual stuff as far as injuries and things like that you got to manage and go through. My second career game at Wisconsin, I broke my arm and an elbow, and it's you're at a new place, you expect to go and hopefully make a difference. And so I think that was I managed that probably the most inappropriate way as a college athlete who got hurt. But then you learn from that and how to take care of your body and how to prepare and get back. But from a failure standpoint, honestly, Megan Bozek can, obviously I'm saying Sherry's on here, but it's like she can allude to this more than anybody. It's like losing a gold medal at the Olympics is probably one of the biggest failure feelings that you can feel. And after the 2014 Olympics, like as a team, you have to manage and how to go through that and what to do to come back. And the biggest thing that we did between 14 and 18 was, one, dialing in on the mental side of things, but it was self-reflection and how are we going to change as a team and how are you going to change as an individual to get a different result. And so when you fail at something, failure teaches you something more than winning does, and it sticks with you longer than a win does. So, how are you going to change as an athlete? And if you don't change, then you're probably going to get a similar result from from that year or that situation.
Yeah. Well, we were all watching the next one and felt pretty good about that one.
Can I just ask you one thing that maybe would be great for some of our younger athletes to hear? That is a long journey between learning a lesson in loss and motivating yourself for win, right? And I think, like, there's just too many athletes that's like the day after is like, oh, we're gonna change it, we're gonna work hard, we're gonna, the prep school team that loses the state championship, the high school team that loses, and they're supposed to win, and then the next year, like, can you just talk about like how hard that is, and maybe some of the strategies you and your teammates used to continue to keep that goal up there and ahead of you and not lose sight
for
of the
4
fact that
years at a
lose?
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know there's world championships in between, but it's a 4-year journey between Olympics.
Yeah, and that is why it's so devastating. Like you lose and you're like, holy crap, like I got to go through another 4 years before I'm in this moment. Hopefully you make that moment. I mean, like the hiccups happen, like teams and goalies stand on their heads to eliminate some of, US or Canada, and they've done it at world championships. And so honestly, it's like you got to break it down from 1 week at a time. One day at a time seems like, holy crap, that's a lot. I mean, I don't want to do the math here, but that's a long time. But I would, balancing when you need to take time off, again, self-reflection for number one, and then balancing when to take time off so your body doesn't get worn out with that 4-year stretch, from a mental and physical standpoint. But then also, 1 week at a time of like, where do I want to be in 1 week? Where do I want to be in 1 month, 1 year, 4 years? And like,
Wow.
you just really have to break all that down. And what helps in these situations is your teammates, because we're all in the same boat. And then from 14 to 18 was ridiculous just because the pro leagues are all messed up. We have this league this year, and then we don't have a league, and then now we do. And there was just all of that whole big concept of like, what do we do? What's best for us? I think that's where you do got to do what's best for you and train and put yourself in a training environment. Again, you're surrounded by people that are better than you. But then also, if you are in an environment where you can't help yourself, but you are one of the better ones, what are you doing to separate yourself so people can't catch you?
Brianna, I shared a video this morning of they dropped hundreds of golf balls off the top of a ski slope, and there's a hole at the bottom, and none of them go in the hole. And then they show the golfer getting a hole in one, and they talk about all the practice. So goals without thought are just goals, right? Or dreams, if you will. It's when you put the thought in and, as you said, find those little things along the way. That's how you get the golf ball in the hole, except on a team aspect, you need all the people doing that all the time. You also said it, that from 14 to 18 is an interesting time period in women's hockey. You said it, the pro leagues were in disarray, a lot of question marks. Fast forward till today, we're in an amazing time for women's sports across the board, whether it be basketball, hockey, women's rugby. Something has changed in the last, we'll say, 12 months for the better, and not just in terms of the popularity, but the acceptance across the board from at least American sports fans. The road to that was paved by people like you, Cremi Granado. There's not enough names I could mention here of the women who pushed the sport to where it's at. But we're here now, and it seems like it's not going to go away. I would just love your thoughts on, A, what that's like for you being in your position, seeing professional women's hockey on a massive scale, and then B, how that's going to change the world for the 8-year-old girl now who's growing up saying, I could play pro hockey when I get older, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the the most incredible thing. It's like, I'm here coaching these high school kids and they're like, I'm like, what do you like, where do you want to, like, do you want to play college? She goes, yeah, coach, I want to play college. And then I hopefully can go play pro. And I'm like, that's awesome. Like,
Yeah.
I never said that when I was at this age. And so for having these young kids have that, goal to go play professional hockey, and it's realistic, and it looks like it's going to be a sustainable league that's going to last. Like, that's incredible.
And expand. Yeah.
Yeah, and expand. Yeah, exactly. And so I think for me in my position, I think it was awesome to be a part of that growth period and figure out what's best and what's going to work best for women's hockey. But the visibility aspect of things is what has been so huge across women's sports, like you mentioned with rugby and basketball, and now in women's hockey. I mean, it's awesome to be able to go to these games and see all these fans that are there, and it's not just young little kids who are going, or it's not just female viewers. There are guys and there are boys who are like, this is awesome, and have respect for the game. And I think that's what's really important, and that's how our sport's going to continue to grow, is
right.
Getting some of that respect from the male side of things is important. So
yeah, it's really cool to be at home with my family and put on the hockey game, if you know what I mean. It could be NHL, it could be WHL, it could be women's basketball, but we just put the game on and we all watch it, and we don't separate it, if you will, by the type of hockey. It's hockey. Hockey is hockey. This has been a wonderful week of Brianna Decker. We hope you go back and listen to the ride to the rink that we've done with her, also the Our Girls Play Hockey we did with her about prep school hockey, and we want to congratulate her from the entire show here once again for being inducted into the USA Hockey Hall of Fame. It is an incredible honor and something that she has absolutely earned. So for Lee Elias, Sherry Hudspeth, Mike Benelli, and Brianna Decker, we'll see you on the next episode of Our Kids Play Hockey. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. Have a great week. Have a great time in hockey. And always remember, skate on.